Welcome to another episode of The Unconventional Path. I'm Corel Pinder, and today we're talking about believing for a baby. Late 30s and believing for a baby. So when I was in my 20s and I was seriously dating, I was very adamant, like, we have to get married before 30 because I have to have my children before 30 because that was just what I thought was best. Like, you hear the science reports that, women over 30, women over 35, it's not recommended. I think I even shared in one of these videos how I had a roommate who came home in tears because the doctor told her at 31, what are you doing? So you can imagine when I go to my doctor every year at 35, at 36, at 37, who gives a gentle nudge of, so what are you going to do about babies? So the first question is, what people ask when they see you at this age. Oh, I'm guessing you don't intend to have children. And I'm like, yes, I do. And some of you may be watching and saying that, women in their 40s who have children, women in their 50s who have children. But sometimes those women do those procedures that are like $10,000, $20,000, $10,000, $20,000 to it. I do not have. So it does get a little scary believing for a baby at 37, but I am believing for a baby. I do hope that one day it happens, but I fall in that weird category. So I do have some friends that are married and they are actively trying to have a child. And so I know what it is to sympathize with them because they're actively trying and it's not happening. But I kind of fall in the weird category of the fact that I'm abstinent because as a believer, I believe that I should wait until I'm married. Not a virgin, abstinent because, been there, done that. We had a former life. But I'm abstinent now and I'm still believing and trusting God for a child. So it's a weird phase because, it's a hard spot to be in, but you're not actively trying. So like, how do you deal with the in-between? So I'm going to tell you some things that have crossed my mind that may have crossed your mind if you're in the same state. If you are in your late 30s or in your 40s and you are believing God for a child, but you're not actively trying yet and you don't know what's going to happen when you do have the opportunity to actively try, or if you'd ever have the opportunity to ever actively try. So there's a lot of conversations that go around women that are in their late 30s or 40s, because technically you can get married at any age. You can get married at 50, you can get married at 60, it doesn't really matter. I think the reason why women sometimes are so anxious is because they want to have biological children. And so the conversations that go around and some options that people explore, that's what I want to talk to you about when believing for a baby. So when you're believing for a baby and people know that, okay, you're late 30s and you want to have a baby, the first thing that comes to mind that people say is just find a good friend that you don't mind co-parenting with. Do what you got to do. God will forgive you. God will understand, and have a child. That's not the path that I'm going to follow because one, like I said, I'm on an abstinent journey because I believe saving myself is a part of God's will for my life. I have done the sex before marriage thing, and it's emotionally, there's just so many layers of why I do not think it's a good decision, and why I understand why God says to wait and leave it for marriage. Like, I give people the analogy of the fire. So sex is a great thing, sex is a great experience, but I think when the fire is placed in a fireplace, it brings you warmth, it brings you comfort, it's beautiful. When a fire is open in the wild, it can possibly cause pain, it can possibly cause destruction, and that's definitely how I view sex before marriage because I've dealt with, the pain that comes with it. And so therefore, that was not an option for me. So a second option that people explore or think about, you can just go and do IVF on your own. You don't have to have premarital sex to do that. This wasn't an option for me because I felt like it would be one, trying to move the hand of God, like, God, you're taking too long, so let me just figure it out and do it on my own. And number two, I really ain't trying to raise no child by myself. Like, I have a lot of friends who have children, and they have shared it's not a cakewalk. So why would I go and spend $10,000 to $20,000? I don't even have $10,000 to $20,000 to do that. To raise a child by myself and deal with all of the stress. No, I do want children, but I rather deal with all of the challenges and blessings that come with children with two people in the home. Now, for whatever reason, if I end up in a situation where, God forbid, my husband passes away or we're not in the same place, whatever, then I'll deal with that then. But I'm not going to take the option to just go about that on my own? So that's the second question that some people say. Third one is some people say, but why don't you just adopt? You don't have to spend the $10,000 to $20,000 if you just adopt. Again, no, I'm not adopting. I'm not taking on full responsibility of just me. There's a lot of tag teaming that has to come with parenthood, and I'm not about to do that. Another thing that I think about is I literally have 10 godchildren. Yes, 10. And so God has told me anytime that you are feeling that nudge of you wanting to deposit into the younger generation, you want to be there for someone, then you go and pick up one of those 10 godchildren, you babysit, you spend time with them, and that's a way for you to pour into them. So adoption never became, the path. So you may be thinking you're believing for a baby. You cannot actively try because you're waiting according to God. So what do you do? What do you do? So I want to share with you quickly what I do. And the first one may seem like, really, that's such a spiritual, churchy answer. But literally the first thing that you can do, if you're like me, if adoption is not an option, sleeping with a friend is not an option, IVF is not an option, if you're wondering, what can I do since I'm not actively able to try until God blesses me with a spouse, is you can have faith and you can trust and believe that God's timing is perfect. I know it sounds spiritual. I know it sounds super churchy, but that is what you can do. And if that is God's will for your life, then he's going to align you at the perfect time. He's going to open your womb. He's going to do the miracle. I used to say all the time, like, I do not want to have children when I am in my late 30s, in my 40s, in my whatever, that's not a 20s. And obviously that dream has already passed, and it's a dream that I had to let go. Like, you can't keep grieving the past if that didn't happen. You just have to focus on, okay, God, you have a better plan. And I realized that one of the things I said is, I'm going to be tired. I'm going to be overwhelmed. And people tell me all the time, I don't know anybody who has as much energy as you. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe God gave me all this energy since I'm clearly didn't have children in my 20s. I'm going to have them later. So that having faith and trust in God and God's timing. But some practical things that I do, I exercise regularly. So that is important right now. I take, vitamins, multivitamins. So I take multivitamins, I exercise daily, I eat healthy. I try to eat healthy as possible. I go to see the doctor regularly. One of my friends told me, she was like, once I got married, I found out that I had fibroids. And so that is something that I suggest you go to the doctor and see if you have, just so there's some things that you can do to make sure that you are trying to get in front of it. I also was making sure that I got insurance in order to cover it. So there are things that you can do that are active in saying, God, I'm believing you for it. I'm trying to set things up. So I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to take my vitamins. I'm going to, go to the doctor regularly. I'm going to do everything that I can in this season that's in my power to set myself up for, if that is something that you have for me, financially, getting financially ready. That's another one that I do. That I am doing everything in my power to get ready. Because if you're believing God for a baby, like they said, faith without works is dead. No, God is not telling you to sleep with your friends. You could have a baby. That's not what he means by works. What he means is doing those practical things that I just talked about. And if it is in his will, I'm believing with you. I'm believing for me as well. But I hope that helped to bring you some encouragement if you're in a similar season. If you are late 30s, 40s, believing for a baby, but you know that you have to trust God's timing in this season, because it's not the time for you to actively try. I hope those things that I shared with you helps to bring encouragement. We are here every Wednesday. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you next week.